Good afternoon. On behalf of Read Exhibitions India, I, Ashna Gemini Sharon, Portfolio Director for MAPIC India, welcome you all. Today's webinar is all about building the future customer experience in the new economy. Whether this crisis leads to an economic downturn or not, you need to start preparing for the future. The global lockdown has driven customer expectations and omnichannel engagements to new heights. Don't wait for mandatory budget cuts to optimize your CX journey. Learn how to enhance flexibility, spend wisely, and keep customer connections strong in the post-COVID era, and how to evolve your customer engagement. This webinar is to understand actionable insights on how you can maintain customer loyalty while optimizing processes and costs in a CX thriving economy. So I feel honored to introduce our moderator, Mr. Indeevar Krishna, who's the VP Customer Success Freshworks.
Thank you very much, Krishna.
And our speakers, Mr. Dharmarajan K, who's the Chief Product Officer, Tata Clicks, Harpreet Ghai, Consumer Relation Director, Asia, Middle East and Africa, GlaxoSmithKline, Dilip Kumar, President and Founder, High Design, M. Yashwant Nag, Co-Founder, Thickshake Factory, and Raghav Verma, co-founder, Chayos. Please note, if you have any question, write in Q&A panel, and it will be taken up by our panelists. Also, the recorded version of webinar will be available on demand. So now, without taking a further talk, I would give it over to Mr. Indeevar Krishna. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Ashna. Thanks a lot for introducing all of us. And good afternoon, good evening, everyone who is on the call. Thank you very much for joining us on this webinar. So health is an important topic nowadays. You know, we see that every message you receive starts with "Hope you are well and safe." Let me also start the session wishing that all of you participating in this webinar are well and safe. And if you're not, get well soon. Okay, I'm the most excited person here because we have 5 doctors on our panel. Trust me, more than allopathy and homeopathy, due respect to them, I believe in retail therapy. Okay, retail therapy is, I think, the sole cause of my well-being. And I'll tell you how. If I'm locked down and if I have to be at home and if I have a lot of time, all I think is I take a Tata CLiQ app or on the website, just go around, lovely brands, lovely products. It seems as if everything is getting shipped, from the factory directly from the company. And that is Dharma's company, Tata CLiQ. Okay, you feel really good seeing the website and the contents therein. But then you can't lock down all of us, forever. So you have to go out into the malls, to go out to the movies in the whatever safety, right? And then moment you step into the open space, you will definitely not miss, the trademark high design. And you step into the outlet, you smell the leather, you feel as if you're buying buying a new laptop bag and launch a new strategy at office tomorrow in, Dilip Kapoor's company. And you can't buy a laptop every time you go out, at least you come out with a belt and feel really good about it. Okay. And then you get tired of shopping. Don't look around too far. You'll find a Chayos outlet somewhere. You start your meetings with friends there, catch up, and so on and so forth. Have the tea, have a good range of menu items. You can never exhaust the menu even if you go every day. They will change the menu soon, right? And that's what, Chayos is all about. We have Raghav. Thanks for joining, Raghav. And can't finish or can't go home without having that thick shake, voluptuously thick shake factory. We have Yashwant here, and it's almost many months since I indulged in thick shake, Yashwant, but you are the closest I can get to right now. If you have overdone all this, you met too many friends over dinner, you had 3 consecutive dinners at Chayos, then you have to relieve yourself, then is always available. And I have a sinus, so I'll have any number of thick shakes, but I'll have to go and take a Crocin because fever hits me soon. So, and if you're bereft of all of that, you definitely have to use Sensodyne, brush your teeth, have a nice nap. So that is GSK Consumer Healthcare, Harpreet Ghai. So I'm really delighted to have all the doctors around here. That's the day in a retail therapy cycle. So while I'm moderating this entire discussion, being up close with each of you, I'm also part of the audience, curious to hear all of you gentlemen and to lap up the snippets and secrets of dealing with rife in retail hereafter. So let's get started. Now, over the last 6 months, we have seen two things. One is restricted mobility. Do not go out unless inevitable. And two is reduced proximity. Cannot certainly hug each other. Galle lagalo yaar. I don't know how long since we've heard this. Restricted mobility and reduced proximity. Two fundamental changes in the way customers are compelled to behave that may have had an impact on the socio and the economic aspects of life. So the questions to each of you, and I would go around each of you, is what are the changes in consumer behavior you've witnessed in your space over the last 6.5 months? Do you see that these changes are permanent? Consequently, what are the shifts and changes in your consumer experience strategy immediately and in the long term? So in summary, the question is, what are the changes in your consumer experience strategy in response to the last 6.5 months? Two shifts, reduced proximity and restricted mobility. That's the question. And I would go around each of you, if you can just spend a few minutes talking about your products, your online, offline strategies, and the shifts in this strategy in response to these changes. So would that be fine? Any questions? And if none, we can start off with Dharma. Over to you.
Thanks, Indeevar. Thank you so much. And thanks, MAPIC, for setting up this beautiful session. It's a very contextual topic in a situation like this. In the last 6.5 months, the kind of things that we have learned as a part of Tata CLiQ, I would say people will take ages. First and foremost, the most important thing is about your ability and agility to respond to situation really, really quick. Before I start touching upon the question, what Indeevar is sort of asking, just giving a little brief of what Tata CLiQ is. I really hope that most of us here would have at some point in time experienced Tata CLiQ. We are a brand-defined omnichannel marketplace. We launched our e-commerce platform about 4.5 years back. Um, um, we very strongly believed there are till then there were only two types of model in e-commerce that existed. One was highly customer focused, which is you provide the customer with the widest selection, deepest discounting in terms of providing the best pricing, and along with that you provide the convenience of getting the product delivered in the fastest amount of time. That was one model which Amazon mastered over the years, and a lot of people across the globe have followed that model, which is highly customer centric and it is catering to a category focused buying behavior. And then there was the other model, which is seller focused model, where the entire platform is based around how you are bringing the selling capability and manufacturing capability in front of the world. And the whole genesis of that e-commerce model was basis the sellers, which is the Alibaba model. There are a lot of players across the globe, even in India, where this association formed. Like for example, for consumer base, it was Amazon, Flipkart kind of model. For seller based model was ShopClues and Snapdeal and the players. In both this, we strongly felt one key player in the equation, in this whole retail equation, was not getting the love from the brand, which is the brand themselves. Whether it is the consumer focused or seller focused, brand were not getting their due. And that is the whole genesis of creation of Tata CLiQ. We are here building a model to provide brand loving customers a site, an online and offline integrated experience. And that's how we are building. And over the years, we have built a very strong relationship with brand and trying to build a flagship store experience in the online world. And that's what we stand for. And then we today we have two different apps. One is we call it as Tata CLiQ Mall, which caters to premium brand loving consumers, and Tata CLiQ Luxury, which is for most of the luxury brands in the country. Um, and in the journey, we have learned a lot of things in terms of how do you provide consistent and reliable consumer experience. We build our boundary conditions very strong, very early in our life cycle. People sort of start implementing metrics like customer effort score, NPS, a little later in the journey. We were fairly strong that way in terms of our focus on data and consumer orientation. Within 6 months of our launching, we were at about 50 plus on NPS, and we consistently continue to be at that number. Uh, and on customer effort score, also we consistently try and improve in various aspects. One of our key sort of deliverable for every single function in the company is how do you eliminate the customer's need for contact. It's a very input oriented, so that you're not dependent on customer to respond to a survey to tell you how satisfied are you, they with your service. So this is the background with which we build our brand, and we continue to sort of grow 100% year over year, and we have aspiration to grow at the same pace thanks to all the brands that we work very, very closely with. Um, Now coming to your question, Indeevar, around what has changed. So many things have changed, tons and tons. We were probably being a digital first company, we were little sort of ahead of the curve to respond to situation. I still remember about like a week, 10 days before Prime Minister Modi announced the first lockdown, we had already moved to work from home model. We started sort of testing this, and we knew that this is just around the corner because we were hearing about what is happening across the globe. We were not waiting for the same to hit us here to start responding. So we were slightly ahead, and that gave us the time to test it out, how you will run this whole business of e-commerce out of home. It was fairly okay as long as in terms of managing the operations, etc. come in. But working from home and managing service is a very, very different ballgame. Today, the maturity of technology is not that high. Reliability of data infrastructure in every single house is not that strong. You can have a very strong data network available in offices, but it doesn't exist at homes. How do you provide for that? You don't have in Mumbai, especially since we are from Mumbai, getting enough space for somebody to sit in a place quietly and take calls in a manner that you continue to sort of provide experience. All these challenges, one by one, we started solving. It took us some time to sort of about like a month or so to understand what is the expectation from the consumer now, and how do you build your processes and system. And also, we are one of those, what should I say, a little fortunate one of this whole COVID situation. Very unlike most of the offline retailers and offline world, we saw a sudden spike in terms of consumer demand and consumer focus on our brands. We saw almost about 2.5 to 3x jump in our traffic in comparison to what we had in Feb March from May, June onwards, and it is continuing. And a similar traction we are seeing in units ordered by consumer, and same is the case of orders. And this we believe is a permanent change that is happening. Indeed, to your question, whether this is a change that is going to exist, it is definitely going to exist. Whatever little inertia that consumer had about testing out how the e-commerce model work, whether it works for all kinds of product, all types of product, it is now more or less well established, and people have understood the convenience of being able to order products at the convenience of their home and getting it delivered. It is not just a phenomena that is happening only in certain pockets. It is a global one. US, where the e-commerce penetration till about Feb March of this year was between 10-11%, is now touching 25% plus. And this is a change we are seeing sector after sector. Similar thing is happening in fintech in India, and I'm sure that this is going to continue. We are gearing up with a lot of processes and system capabilities to ensure that we continue to provide a great customer experience within that boundary conditions that we have defined for ourselves. We'll not let the experience fall. At the same rate, adoption to newer technologies, technologies that work really well in a remote function, etc. We have now learned it. Like for example, 500 employees of Tata CLiQ today can't live without Teams, and and we now understand that with Teams we can do practically anything and everything. And Our CEO has been a big believer of team. He took about 1 year, year and a half, and he couldn't push all of us into team using teams as much as what we have now started doing. Now the use of these technologies to be able to deliver greater experience, we will see a lot more traction in this. Yeah, these are sort of some of the high level things that we're noticing. And
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dharma. I think 50 plus NPS within 6 months. Hearty congratulations. And running on 100% growth, 3x jump in traffic. These are amazing things. So I will come back to you again with a specific question on how are you equipping your teams, your agents to handle this 3x jump in traffic, and how are you using the analytics to do resource planning to be able to take care of such demand? That's a question I'll come back to you with a little later. But now let me go over to Sri Dilip Kapoor, High Design. I think the very name, when you say Dilip Kapoor, I can actually, smell the, aroma of leather. Over to you, sir.
Okay. All right, Dharma, I think I have to confirm that you really have done an amazing job. I mean, it'll come up, but specifically, I think Tata CLiQ has done an incredible job. I mean, we've seen our sales with Tata CLiQ, almost triple. So he's right there. All right, first, very briefly, who's High Design? We're a lifestyle brand, but largely in the leather goods segment. Our single largest market is by far is India, and around 30% of our product under the brand High Design still goes abroad across 23 countries. In India itself, I think will distinguish us very, very much from Tata CLiQ, is that we as a brand, we're present across many, many, many channels. We have 103 stores of ours, exclusive stores. We are present in about 150 multi-brand stores. We are present in pretty much all the e-commerce platforms, our own website, and then internationally, we're present through distributors in a lot of other places across the globe. The customer base is quite interestingly and quite rare for a fashion brand. We're quite well divided. We're half and half. We're around 50% is men, 50% is women. 25 to 35 is the age group that works on mostly. So that's in brief where we are and who we are. How has it changed? Okay, the single biggest change was obviously when they locked us all up. When they locked us all up, nothing left, zero. And then when it reopened, we went, within a month, we were from 20% being on e-commerce, we jumped to 40%. So the stores which were also opening, people were still reluctant to go to them. And we're still sitting at around 40% of our business is still now on e-commerce platforms. Interestingly, in the stores, you talked about proximity, you talked about movement, social distance, all that. Interestingly, the change has also happened in the stores. Around 20 to 25% of our turnover in the stores is coming from home deliveries. So you are using the people in the store need much greater skills now, not only to be able to sell to somebody, but also to be able to talk to somebody on the phone and convince them. So that's quite a change there. Home deliveries are very significant. And then Tata CLiQ, which led the thing, now all the e-commerce people are there, including our own website, Omni. The stores, our stores have become not only now a store when you walk in, look at the product and buy, but we also become a warehouse for Tata CLiQ and for other platforms that sell off whatever we have in the stores. So Omni is now sitting at about 18% of our turnover. So what you're seeing is 40% of the turnover now is coming from e-commerce platforms and our website, 20% from home deliveries, another 18% from Omni. So our own stores, what's the role of our own stores? We are paying these massive rentals there. What's their role now? Significantly, still, I know that, you know, Dharma is going to get really mad at me for saying this, but Dharma, we can have an argument later on. It's okay. We still haven't learned how to build a brand on an e-commerce platforms as well as there are stores. So the way we build a brand largely, the way a person knows about it, loves the brand, learns the stories of the brand, is still largely through our stores, number one. Since the customer is not coming to a store, and building the stories and building the communication is still as critical as ever before, where we see another major change is the importance of social media. More than e-commerce platforms, where we're building a brand is digitally. Where do we build a brand? We build it on social media. The amount of storytelling that happens now on Instagram or even Facebook is huge now. So the building of the brand, still I would say the store is still the most significant builder of the brand. The distribution of the brand, how you sell the brand has changed, is gone largely digital or home delivery or using the platform to do omni sales. Things are merging, things are becoming hazier. It's not so clear what's the store, what does the store do? Is a store for selling? Well, it's also a warehouse now. And what's the most important role that the store plays? Store is a place where we build a brand. So the way we look at a store and how you pay for it and why you pay for it is changing very significantly. And I think these changes are permanent. That's it.
Thank you very much, Dilip. Extremely insightful, and we'll come back again on this question of brand building on e-commerce, the way we do it. A long way to go, the stories around it. Very insightful, and thank you very much. Then we'll go to the next speaker, Harpreet. How would you sort of take this going forward?
Thanks, Indeevar. Some really interesting inputs there from the panelists. Before I jump into my inputs, I'd like to sort of take a brief moment to introduce GSK Consumer Healthcare as a company first, and then talk about who our consumers are and what we've identified as their recent trends and behaviors. So when you experience discomfort like sensitive teeth, cold, flu, or possibly even joint pains, I think we are here to help you enjoy life to the full again, right? And then we are a leading consumer healthcare company that develops and markets, we believe, some of the world's best loved brands and products, right? Just to give you a feel for some of those, and Indeevar loved the way you introduced the retail doctors and called out some of the brands, but again. So we basically own brands like Crocin, Centrum, Eno, Otriven, Sensodyne, Voltaren, and Aquafish. Just a few of those, that exist in India. And for the ones in the audience who like numbers, we're a company that's, let me see, about 300 years old. And we market our products in over 160 countries. We have, as you speak, about 100,000 employees worldwide. And if I'm getting the number right, last year, the consumer business generated about £9 billion in revenue. So that's GSK in a nutshell for you. And again, about the changes in the consumer behavior specific to consumer healthcare, Indeevar. I'm going to try and sort of paraphrase this in possibly 3-4 key trends that we've noticed, right? I believe we've covered at least a decade in a matter of a few days when it comes to adoption of digital, right? there has been significant acceleration in e-commerce. To Mr. Kapoor's point, and specifically, we've experienced that in the over-the-counter space, right? And that's the new shopping reality, given not just the convenience that is being offered by the e-com players, but also the safety that sort of comes along with it as an added, benefit. And two is, what's interesting is that we've noticed a shakeup in the hierarchy of needs when it comes to how do I put it, the composition of the shopping basket, right? Consumer healthcare and hygiene products have sort of almost regained a certain status, and while there's been a decline in the discretionary spend, we've seen sort of some of our brands in general, and also the healthcare and hygiene products sort of come up the value chain there. And what's also something that strikes is that the preference for trusted brands has seen a surge, right? And obviously, with trust comes this aspect of safety, security, and therefore you see some of the global players sort of making it even bigger. And finally, I think one thing that absolutely one should sort of call out is we've seen a fundamental shift in consumers proactively managing their health, right? Particularly in the consumption of immunity products, be it vitamins, minerals, and supplement products, right? And if I were to go back in time, in around March, April timeframe, these products went through a massive sellout at retailers as people were just pantry loading. And what we've seen is that trend still stays strong in some of these categories. On a parallel, I think why I believe this is a trend that's here to stay largely is because if you look at the meditation apps, digital fitness classes, even online cookery courses are booming, right? Kettlebells and yoga mat sales have sort of gone through the roof. In short, what we see is consumer interest rise in products that support the overall maintenance of health and wellness. So COVID-19 has just heightened consumer awareness when it comes to health and well-being, and I think that's a trend we're absolutely betting will likely stay. In terms of our CX strategy, over the years, we've beefed up our ability to connect and to engage with consumers and customers on social and digital channels. And these efforts and investments have actually allowed us to continue to deliver positive experiences through the pandemic, Indeevar.
Great. Thank you very much, Harpreet. And I'll just sort of summarize. We started Dharma telling us how there is a 3x jump in traffic and how they leveraged on that. Then we went through how the LIP has sort of derived value out of the stores which are there and branding on e-commerce. You told us two things, which is not just convenience, but safety as an added benefit, and consumers proactively, the word proactively, managing their health, especially the immunity products. So these are the trends and the way I think you are all seeing e-commerce there to stay and hopefully sustain the volumes that are running right now. Now, we will go over to Raghav Chayos. I think a few months back, congratulations, you had a successful round of fundraising, to expand your footprint across the country till God otherwise willed and said, don't shake hands right away, wait for some more time. Okay, so Raghav, over to you. How do you see these changes from your perspective?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Indeevar. So our business is a cafe business. I'll just talk a bit about Chayos. So we started Chayos with the fundamental premise that while you drink great chai at home and you can make that chai for yourself, the minute you step outside your house, you just don't have access to good chai. And in a country where average consumption of chai is 2 cups a day for every adult Indian, How can it be that you don't have a good cafe to go out there and get a great cup of chai? And we married that with another fundamental insight that everybody in India likes their chai a particular way. So we came upon this concept of Meri Wali Chai, which basically states that everybody is extremely finicky about how they like their chai. For example, my mom would only have chai with very little milk, with a little bit of elaichi in it, and with a very little bit of sugar. So if that chai is made any other way, it will be sent right back to the kitchen, right? So we all understand that. So there could not be a chai concept that could exist which could not cater to this personalization of chai. So from a customer centricity point of view, something that we've maintained as our USP from day one is that we are providing the customers that very chai that they want, and being able to do that, that's been the struggle actually for us, being able to solve for consistently delivering on that customization for each and every customer. So we in fact use a lot of technology. We've built in-house chai robots to be able to automate the chai and be able to give it 100% correctly whichever location you go to. So as of today, we run 85 cafes. We are in Delhi, Bombay, Chandigarh, and Bangalore, and grew almost 70% year on year last year, and would have been looking to continue that same journey this year as well. But yeah, lockdown happened, and changed practically our entire thesis for the time being, because it is a very social use case. You go to a cafe to hang out, you go to a cafe to spend time, and when you say that you don't get out of your house and you don't get close to other people, what part of the cafe use case can actually exist? And that was a problem statement for us when lockdown started. That how do you continue to be relevant in a post lockdown world, in a world where people are scared to be in each other's proximity? So there are two fundamental thoughts here. One is, what are the temporary changes that have come out of this, and how many of them are going to last? And future looking, is there going to be a fundamental change in the social behavior of human beings, right? I'll answer the second part of the question. At least our hypothesis is that fundamentally we are not going to be any less social once this pandemic gets over. The cafe use case is not going to be any lower. The mall use case is not going to die down. People are not going to stop going to cinema halls. People are not going to stop going shopping, right? We believe that it is a matter of time. There will be some behaviors and some situations, some behaviors will get fast tracked, which will definitely stick. But are we talking about a fundamental change for a continued long period of time? I don't think so. So then let me talk about what are those behaviors that actually changed for us, and how did we have to adapt to them? One of the biggest changes was no dine-in allowed, right? For us, about 80-85% of our overall business used to come in from cafe dine-in. People coming in cafe, sitting down, having a chai. So we had to act really fast there. We had to really amp up on the entire delivery experience that we were offering, being able to assure our customers that you can enjoy your same chai and your same products on a delivery experience. E-commerce for us was pretty much negligible before lockdown happened. Today, it contributes about 25% of our overall business, right? And while dine-in is now coming back, but it's definitely been great for us in terms of a lot of product launches and a lot of work that's happened on e-commerce, which has now become a significant channel for us. We are now serving a lot of tea leaves, green teas, instant chais, a lot of those products which were never available on e-commerce. So that's something that's been really fast tracked. We worked a lot on our takeaway. We launched a takeaway and contactless dine-in centric app with which people can actually place their orders from their car itself, and we would deliver to their cars. People could just take away without even actually entering inside the store. So that was an extremely quick one month kind of effort that we used to make that live. So it's been a bunch of things that we managed to get out of it. I think behaviors that are going to stay for sure takeaway will continue to be a significant part of that entire behavior, even looking forward. E-commerce for us is going to be a significant channel for sure. Health and hygiene focus is here to stay. There's no doubt about that. But on the other side of things, we are already seeing that activity coming back. We are seeing that in our high street stores, we are starting to see about 50 to 60% of business now starting to come back. So people are getting that comfort. A lot of that behavior is still takeaway, but the behavior and the confidence for the customer is definitely coming back. And for us, because of lockdown, we managed to see a lot of adoption of chai delivery. We managed to see a lot of adoption of takeaway. So for us, these are new business channels that are here to stay, and will definitely help us going forward, because this is a purely incremental part of the business.
Thank you very much, Raghav. Thanks a lot. I think a couple of things, key takeaway. You shared with us a use case of deriving value from the physical stores with whatever agility in response that has been demonstrated in your strategy. So that's amazing. Thank you very much. And now from the hot steaming chai, we'll go to the nice cold thick shake. Over to you, Yashwant.
Thanks, Indeevar. It's a great honor to be part of this esteemed panel. I really enjoyed taking insights from my co-panelists, Harpreet, Dilip, Dharma, and of course, Raghav. So what is the Thick Shake Factory? Our business journey began around close to 7 years back now. So at that point of time, there was nobody who were actually selling just milkshakes. There was no brand in the organized retail sector who were just selling milkshakes. So that was, and the people in India love milk, they love flavored milk, they love milkshakes, but we could all think about only a Tetra Pak Amul wala milkshake or a Thela kind of milkshake that you get on the streets of Delhi or Bombay or Hyderabad. So that was a pain, not a pain point, but that was a gap that we actually saw in the market, and we started out. So we were one of the first players to start organizing the retail market of milkshakes. It's been quite a journey. Today we have about 120 stores pan-India, mostly south, and we have been building the category slowly and steadily, I would say. So obviously our business was primarily a QSR business in which the experiential part is really not a major point for us. However, we do have quite a few cafes. About 30-35% of the stores are in a cafe format, so that the customer can feel and experience the brand and then order it. So if you, so I was kind of a little lucky that way, because almost 38% of our sale was any which ways coming from the e-commerce channel previously. By e-commerce, I mean mostly the aggregators of Swiggy and Zomato. However, during the just before the lockdown, I was studying the trends abroad, especially in Wuhan at that point of time. I actually expected a boom in the online food delivery in India, and I was so wrong, because for the first 1.5-2 months, it was just a disaster, I should say. So we were only about 10% of the sale in April. So slowly we have been picking up, and obviously the change was that people were, as Raghav rightly put it, people are really scared to come out, and people were really scared to even order food online initially, because people were scared about the spread of the virus. And number two, one more thing that went against us was that there was a consumer perception that when you eat or drink cold items or beverages or ice creams, especially, you get affected with coronavirus and COVID. So it took almost 1.5 months on part of our education and of course the entire market to be kind of aware that there is not any significant correlation between both of them. And today we are seeing close to about 55 to 60% back on business, even though we are operating only about 70% of the stores. We are not still able to operate 30-35% of the stores. So especially in high streets, in drive-in formats, we're actually seeing more than 120-130% of the sale, wherein people are able to order in from cars and drive-thrus and drive-ins. So I see that as a very good channel at this point of time. I think this is going to be the new norm, at least for the next year or a year and a half, because only when the vaccine is really out and the entire population is vaccinated, we would actually see go back to the pre-COVID norms. So we have significantly pivoted our business model because we were essentially a QSR with a good, healthy chunk of e-commerce any which ways. So we took this opportunity when we were especially down and with less work than usual. We have actually kind of pivoted a model, and we are getting into cloud kitchens. We are opening a lot of cloud kitchens. So essentially, because the consumers are any which is not coming to your store, nor there is a apart from building the brand, we feel there is not really a requirement to be an offline player primarily. So even though we would be continuing to open stores majorly for the brand building, our focus has now shifted to build an online only brand because we see there's a huge potential in this space. Of course, that has its own set of challenges. Building an online only brand is extremely much more difficult than building an offline. However, we feel there's a very big opportunity for us, and we have actually pivoted and modeled into that form.
Super good, Yashwant. In fact, when you said that, a cold product and the correlation with the possibility of, falling ill. So, how you came out of it, 70% of stores back and 60% of the business, back to normalcy. I think your story is quite inspiring. Thank you very much. And so we have finished the round of, first round of questioning. Now I'll go back to each of you with specific questions. Now over to Dilip. The first question is, retail stores, and how did you bring the entire organization working with each other in these moments of change across functions when you made the significant shift of deriving value from e-commerce and from your existing stores as warehouses? How did the organization respond to these changes in your CX strategy, and what is it we can learn from your experience?
I think the first was the huge shock of suddenly everything's closed down. What's going to happen to us? Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? How are we going to pay our salaries? It was so everything was tumbled down, and everybody was in big shock. The first thing we did was to have every alternate day, I was communicating to every member of the organization myself, from the top down. I think that was critical for people to know that we are communicating with every single person and constantly at it. I think that has continued, although it's become less important as people have realized that we will survive now. I mean, there was a question at a time when people were wondering, is retail going to survive? Are we going to die out? What's going to happen to us? I think that question is over now. I mean, people are aware that we're going to survive. It's going to be tough, but we are steadily seeing growth coming out of 0 to 30 to 50 to, sitting around 60% now, as everybody's saying. So we're seeing the progression towards survival. How did the key question of how did we merge stores into e-commerce, into everybody? The first thing we told the stores is, listen, these e-commerce guys are not your enemy. They're not bastards out there. They're actually paying your salary right now. When they realized that, the link was very strong, that we were one company. And then the support, the fact that the order came from e-commerce, but it was delivered from a store, whereas before they would have said, "Nahi, hamara stock hum nahi denge. I'm not going to give my stock. Forget it." We haven't seen that anymore. I think when people realize that, the survival depended on it, everybody is participating in it now. And surprisingly, not so much animosity anymore. Lot more communication. We are seeing people communicating about the brand across our internal channels. So we have a social media which goes out, which is obviously to the consumer. Then we have an equivalent channel which goes internal, where we do crazy things like, my first chocolate chip cookies I ever baked were for the stores that reached 100% of the turnover from last year. I personally baked those chocolate chip cookies, and they were shitty chocolate chip cookies. They weren't even that great. But the fact that I baked it for them and sent it out, that was something. HR department is busy baking cakes for people who are successful. So, and talking about the heroes, talking about and that's going across all the channels. And I think that has probably been the single most important reason why there hasn't been animosity between when you do Omni and when you try and merge the two.
Great. Thank you very much. This is quite touching, the baking cakes and reaching out to employees personally. And personally, I said, we broke away when we talked about how you equipped your teams, the agents, to take on the 3x surge in volume, and how you did resource planning and used analytics and so on and so forth to prepare yourself for business opportunities and opportunity utilization. So we want to learn from you on this aspect on preparing for the higher business volume growth.
So Indeevar, you're referring to me, right?
That's right, Dharma.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it was quite a challenge. First and foremost is setting the infrastructure for somebody to take calls from home. Itself requires a fair bit of investment. Not everybody has broadband connection at home. These are the kind of very, very basic stuff we realize. People don't have a laptop or a computer at home. The agents who are currently taking contacts. So there were like a lot of things that we had to mobilize, arrange, and thanks to sort of being a part of a Tata group, we could sort of mobilize this really quickly, sort of getting in touch with various partners, various other group companies who helped us in sort of setting this up. We run our contact center through erstwhile TBSs, now taken over by Connect. First, in terms of setting that infrastructure right. And then we started going a little deeper in understanding the kind of areas in which we are seeing growth, which category we are seeing growth. Also, we did a lot of sort of changes in terms of being in tune with what consumers are searching for and buying the moment this whole lockdown happened. People were suddenly shifting towards certain type of products. Like for example, within about say 10 to 15 days of lockdown, we started selling masks. Because we realized that so many consumers were searching for masks, and in most of the places you are not getting reliable branded masks. So when I'm saying mask, still staying true to what Tata CLiQ's proposition is, brand aligned, brand defined, high quality premium products, we immediately sort of move towards providing those products. When you sort of bring in new products, how do you ensure that the entire system within the organization is also well aware of what to expect, what type of contacts to expect from them, and then what kind of training that you need to provide to people to be able to manage any customer query on those kind of aspects. Coming to the point of when we started seeing the surge in volume, 2-3 things that we did. First, we were sort of pained by the challenges that was posed by work from home. And then we suddenly realized the benefits and advantages of working from home. Now we were not restricted by few cities from where we are operating from. From running the whole contact center from 2 cities, because we had only offices in 2 cities. Now we opened up 7 cities way in the lockdown period. And this sort of bringing in the entire HR and training machinery of multiple places. And like, for example, e-commerce is booming and we were growing extremely fast, but there were other industries who were not growing so fast or not having the kind of traction. There were people, they were sitting idle, etc. We could sort of in-source from there. We brought those people in. Then we redefined, we used like we have a certain algo basis, which we have a daily check on what is the most common reason for consumers contact and what reasons, what questions are they asking, and based on which we redefined our training modules and train the agents a little faster so that they can start taking contacts a little
Sorry to interrupt you, Dharma. Can we double click on that algo which you're talking about? That sounds very, very insightful.
So we have a metric called CPT. Like I mentioned in the beginning also, our focus is how do I minimize or eliminate the customer's need to contact? How do you build your process communication system so that you intimate customer and decide beforehand that this customer needs some information to be provided. You reach out to customer through any of the automated mechanism or communication tool without customer reaching us. This we drill down to various levels. It is for every single product, every single city where we ship. Like for example, some sort of insights. I'm not want to sound pointing out to certain community. The contact per transaction upwards of Vindhyachal is about 1.5 times of downwards of Vindhyachal, which means people from southern India will have the chances of them calling for the same reason, same product, same distance travel is lesser in comparison to north. So what you do is you sort of increase the intensity of communication that you send to customers who have ordered products from say Bihar and Jharkhand, MP, UP in comparison to people who have ordered products from Karnataka, TNT, Kerala, and so on. So and these are multiple such smaller sort of information. We then drill it down to which category has what reasons for contact. Appliances as a category, if somebody has ordered, it's a very high anxiety product. For those products, you need to have a very different sort of communication system. It's a high friction model. The whole process is a very highly involved. The consumers have to think about how do I replace my exchange my existing AC, which is there, for which I'm buying a new one. I have to dispose of. Once the AC gets delivered, somebody has to be available, have to be picked up. All of this has a lot of nuances. You drill down and estimate how many contacts you expect for each of these category, basis which you decide how many people I need to provision for, and you prepare well in advance. And there is a ramp up time frame for hiring, training executives to meet this demand. So once we started seeing our volumes going up and we started ramping up our agents, the rate at which you can add people was still a little slower than the rate at which we were seeing a demand going up. Here we came up with a slightly different concept called demand shaping. I don't know how many of us would have done. This is to ensure at all point in time I provide exceptional experience. I will sell a little less, but I will not compromise on the quality of experience that I provide. There's a very unique problem that you be sort of been faced with here in pandemic, where our rate of growth was higher than what we could service for a brief period of time. When we were expanding our capability of CS to take in every single contact, we said we will slow down on certain areas to ensure that we consistently provide experience. Again, this demand shaping is done basis lot of algos and research, which category to choose, where the contacts are there, where it depends on our brand sort of agreement in terms of what numbers that we have planned for the brand, what is the traction that we're seeing, what is the margin that we have, and what is the logistic relationship. All of that we take into consideration and decide which particular category to slow down to ensure that whatever orders that I've taken, I consistently provide exceptional experience to consumers before selling more. So that is something new. And now we have built in certain capability in terms of how do you build fungible demand, fungible supply. So depending on sudden rise, how do you use a building software for enabling gig workers to take in certain contacts at different points in time. There are tools available, there are partners available through which we can do this. And also we are continuously optimizing our communication channel. Email is no more an email. Gone are the days where people can commit like, I will respond to your email within 24 hours. These days, customer within 2 hours will write 3 mails. It's almost like an instant messaging. You are supposed to respond back to customer that fast. Otherwise, it just doesn't matter. They treat those channels differently. That has also changed the way we have now geared ourselves to respond to those channels. And where it is required, we even phased out some channel. We'll move to where consumers are rather than forcing customers to choose channels. So those are like kind of changes that we have brought about and trying to address the spike of 2.5 times, 3 times sale consistently.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dharma. Thanks a lot. Insightful, as always. We have 3 minutes to go, but we will, I think, complete on time. Meanwhile, a poll will come out from my colleagues in MAPIC. So please take around 15 seconds to answer the poll. Request to the audience. Then we go over to the last couple of questions to Harpreet and Yashwant. We're running short of time. So Harpreet, what are the minimum standards which you in the organization would have told the team, saying that come what may, we have to sort of handle these minimum standards? There are two questions actually, to Yashwant and Harpreet. Harpreet, question to you is, and then I'll come to Yashwant. Harpreet, question to you is, how are you tackling the burnout and fatigue seen predominantly among the sales and service staff? It's almost 6 months right now, and it's not easy. Okay. So then I'll go on to the next question to Yashwant, where, how are you ensuring the minimum standards are adhered to for customers in such difficult situations? Over to you, Harpreet. Yeah, that's
wow. Okay, that was a minute of me speaking on mute, but so I'll try and keep this really brief so Yashwant gets the opportunity to respond as well. As an organization and as a leader of the consumer experience organization for the region, there are several programs that we've rolled out to ensure the holistic well-being of the team, because that for us is priority. We recognize that employee satisfaction actually has a very strong correlation with customer satisfaction, right? And so from that perspective, we've got several modules that sort of account to facts and resources about COVID and the pandemic in general, and tips for keeping employees and dependents right educated, healthy and engaged as well. So what we've also done is we've got open discussions that cover financial, legal, psychological aspects that may actually impact the employees. So besides taking care of that aspect of the employees, what we've also done is we've made sure that the teams understand that the SLAs and the KPIs are there for a certain reason, and that can sort of sometimes be overlooked if the larger goal is being achieved. And I'll give you a classic example. Reminded me of something that Dharma was talking about, having let's say work from home resources. One of the things that I've told my team is that please understand that you will have your elderly folks at home, you will have the young kids at home, you probably even have pets at home, and by working at home, you have encroached their space and they haven't encroached your space. So please make sure that you're able to coexist while you're sort of working. You're on a call, you're on a webinar like this one, and it's okay for certain distractions, certain noises sometimes sort of play the role of the white noise in during the meetings. So some of those aspects have been taken into consideration. We've also made sure that we've taken steps to support the team with simple ergonomics of working from home, right? Because some simple things like not necessarily having the right chair, not really having the right study table to work from, can also have an impact, right? And leaders at all levels within GSK are being coached on simple actions that can actually be taken to alleviate fatigue related issues, right? And I think that has sort of made sure that the fatigue of the team sort of is kept to minimum.
Thank you very much, Harpreet. Really, that matters. People, everything. People can take care of customers. Over to you, Yashwant.
So Indeevar, so we started this back in March itself because we realized that the hygiene is going to be very important. I think on March, even before the lockdown, actually we started the concept of a hygiene seal. So we looked at the entire process, right? So first of all, the staff should not have been tested negative, positive, obviously. So we made sure that whoever was having, any symptoms were being sent to home in the first place without coming to the outlets at any point of time. That was the first and immediate step that we took back in March, first week or second week. And then once we were assured after making sure that no staff of us were having any symptoms, we made sure that people whoever were coming into the outlets were obviously checked with respect to the temperature, and also we did a lot of rapid testing. Initially, we used rapid testing, and whoever had symptoms, we made sure that the staff were getting tested the RT-PCR test. So once we made sure that the staff were safe, and then we made sure that obviously they were wearing. I mean, today all of these are become the standard and norm everywhere. But we started this out in March, and we reinforced the message with every delivery, saying that every one of our staff has been tested, and we log the temperature. So whenever the guy who does your shake is actually, you can log his temperature and see. Apart from this, we made sure that the process is completely contactless. By that I mean there is no place in which a hand or a body part is anywhere used in touching the food, especially, right? So basically, ours is ice cream. It's blended. It's automatic. It's kind of a machine or a robotic procedure. You blend it and you make sure that you're wearing a glove, and you put on the mask and you put it in the glass, and we make sure that the entire process is completely contactless. And of course, even with the delivery aggregator guys, we are making sure that nobody is touching it while giving, and there is a contactless delivery, as even Raghav has mentioned. So we are making sure that the temperatures are locked down, the symptoms are not there for most of the people. And even if, so there was a case where one of the staff had got into contact, obviously, and we made sure that the entire guys are off for about 10 days until they recovered back and came back. So we have been doing these things and making sure that the customers are also aware of this, and we came up with a hygiene seal concept. So after doing the entire thing, I will be able to show you. So we came up with a hygiene seal and every package that is there. So when the customer opens it, he's aware that all these processes are taking place, and he feels good about it, right? So it's all transparent, and anytime anybody wants, they can come and have a check at this. So that's the confidence that we are giving the customers. So that is why we have seen the business coming back to better levels than a couple of months back.
Thank you very much. We are coming to the end of the session, and I'll just take 2 minutes more. Thank you to the audience for allowing us to exceed the duration by 7 minutes. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to the panelists. You are really doctors. As an audience, I really feel good as you feel when you visit a doctor. All of you together, a panel of doctors, you're telling us that, look, survival is not an issue. You will live, you will thrive, but redefine your business proposition if need be. Give what customers want, be agile, be responsive. This seems to be a very large message coming from each of you, if I have to summarize and take notes. We do have inspiring stories from each of you, the texture of which is so different. And it's I think, wholesome learning, and I'm sure the audience would have made their notes. And when it comes to retail, we learned how to derive value out of the existing stores, and also collaborate with e-commerce participants to together make it win, and also derive value from social media. We've learned that from Dilip. Okay, and then when you're online, like Tata CLiQ, equip your people, to be able to go 3x or 5x or 10x, whatever volumes are coming, because it's not just about business, it's about serving customers. And we learned about demand shaping. We talked about the hygiene seal. And, a whole lot of learnings we had today, both on the online and offline space. I feel as good and enriched as a patient returning from a hospital after a nice health checkup positive. Thank you very much, doctors, and thank you, participants, and thank you, MAPIC. Freshworks brings this for all of you, and wish you a great, safe year ahead, and all the very best. Indeevar signing off.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Indeevar.
Thank you so much, Indeevar, and all the
Thank you
so much,
Indeevar.
Indeevar, for hosting, and thank you, speakers, for sharing your solutions to the industry. Thank you very much once again. I'm sure this would be very helpful for the entire retail community. And thank you so much, all the attendees. We really appreciate you being here. So if you have any questions, please write to us. We will be able to help you. And have a great day ahead. Bye and stay safe.